This is Newsline Live. We're broadcasting, as we almost always do, from the News First studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And this morning we thought we'd take a different dimension, a different perspective, or to ask the viewpoint of somebody else. So that somebody else is a citizen of Sri Lanka, and he's also a consultant pediatrician by profession, is a former president of the Sri Lanka Medical Association, and of course he's right here in the studio, and it's Dr. BJC Perera. Very good morning to you, Dr. Perera.
Very good morning to you.
Thank you for agreeing to be on Newsline.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Thank you. And as we sort of continue the battle at hand, and everybody in the world is concerned about their people first, so it should be in Sri Lanka too, and indeed it is. Sri Lanka is diverse in very many things. It's also diverse in the number of people and the type of people who live here, who've chosen to live in Sri Lanka, or to work and live here, or simply retire in Sri Lanka. And I thought I'd play this wonderful clip, which was sent to me by, shall we say, a dedicated viewer. Let's take a listen, shall we?
Anduru wala pata atarin hinai nagatin Sri Lanka. Biu prakasangka badete atarin nagatimo Sri Lanka. Pitamui diriya maekavane menyekatimo Sri Lanka. Et idivina nagavo kaya hamue nagatimo Sri Lanka. Nagatimo Sri Lanka.
Time indeed to rise up, Sri Lanka. Dr. Perera, thank you very much for being on Newsline Live. That's somebody who obviously lives in Sri Lanka, and expressing by singing Rise Up Sri Lanka, which is a song that has been put out. In keeping in the same context, we are treated to the growing information that the government is sort of loosening the various lockdown measures. We have an announcement, a date that has been announced for the opening of schools. We have announcement from the BOI that certain manufacturing, certain activities are going to be allowed, and asking companies to send their applications for curfew passes to the BOI. We appear to be on the road to be having elections. Do you think, Doctor, as a person with a medical background, do you think that Sri Lanka is ready to loosen up these measures in force right now?
Well, I wouldn't say that it is ready right now. It will depend on how things will progress over the next couple of weeks. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I think then only we will be able to make any reasonable decisions. Of course, going on the viewpoints of various experts, that whether we are approaching the stage where we get on to what is generally referred to as an exit program. Mm-hmm. That is, you try to come out of the current situation where there is widespread curfews, lockdowns, all kinds of things, where everything basically is at a standstill. So to come out of that, you have to come out with a well-planned exit program. Now, that is not something that you can do overnight. That has to be a well-planned one, drawn out and in stages. And many people believe, okay, well, the whole thing can be settled now, and then within a couple of days that we can come out of this situation. It is not like that.
It's far too serious?
It has to be very slow, and it has to be taken stage by stage. You have to first look at the essential services, then the economic aspects of these things, definitely the medical viewpoint, that we need to know exactly which way that we are going. So we cannot say that yet, because it will depend on how things will progress over the next couple of weeks.
Because, of course, the figures of those infected have continued to rise. On the 26th of March, when I started writing it down, it was like 102. Today, it's 20-something days later, it's 238.
At the last count, last night, it was 238.
Yes, so that suggests to me that this problem is far from over. Are we at a stage, we are in this voyage of discovery, we're still in the discovery stage. They found, for example, that chap in Grandpass and Maradona, you saw the whole thing, how when he came from Jaila and he brought it with him, he'd interacted with people there and interacted with people here, and that whole area in Grandpass is locked down. And the same in, I think, in Maradona and in various other places. There was a couple of villages near, just off Putlam and so on. So, are we at a stage where, what was the word, a community spread? Are we nearing that, or have we managed to overcome that? Have we managed to go around it?
Community spread, in medical terms, is a disaster.
Right.
But having said that, there is no evidence so far that we have reasonably widespread community spread of the disease.
Right.
We are detecting cases from time to time. There are the odd little peaks, but the peaks are generally not all that massive. The peaks are sort of, you suddenly get 11 positives, then you have maybe 8 positives. So one need not really truly worry about these little peaks. But if you compare it against the other countries, that their daily positives are a lot more. There are hundreds, thousands in some countries. So I think it is to the eternal credit of this country and what we have done so far, that we have not come anywhere near that stage. And the couple of people that we have detected as positives, where we cannot really find a definitive contact history or a place from which it has actually, this person has contracted the disease, you cannot, there are only a few outliers. They are not very large numbers. So in that sense, from a technical point of view, from a medical point of view, that we are still in the cluster stage.
And so does that give us carte blanche to go out and have an immediate opening up?
No, you can't do it immediately. You can, as I said earlier, it has to be extremely gradual. It has to be very carefully planned. And you have to take into account various other things like the essential services, the medical viewpoints, how things are going. As I said for us earlier, that what we really want is, rather than flattening the curve, we want to crush it. We want to really crush it. And if you need to do that, that you've got to plan the future very, very carefully. The immediate future, what we are going to do within the next month or so.
Sri Lanka's legislators have a splendid track record of being rather flippant when it comes to planning. Do you think do you think we can achieve this planning?
Well, so far we have achieved what many people thought was almost impossible. As far as the situation in the medical setup in the country is concerned. Well, hopefully there will be a change, that they will take this very seriously.
So does it mean that because we've done rather well so far, does that give us some form of God-given right to gamble all that prudence away and have elections, reopen the schools? You're a consultant pediatrician. Really? Are we going to send our kids out there?
Well, they have actually given a date for it. Yeah. There was a date given earlier, I think towards the end of April, I think, and then they put it back on to May. So this is probably a tentative plan that they are saying at the moment.
Right.
Obviously it is not written in stone, we can change it.
But it must be so communicated, because the people, we're not all lawyers, and these are not legal niceties we're talking about. We're talking about the real world. And people, there's no point issuing a statement saying schools will be open on the 11th of May. It should be, we plan to open, we'll give you a date later. It's better than giving a date.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, because the people, they just read so many people rely on genuine news alerts. You know, they read it in little form, and they immediately, that's to them, that is the gospel. And so a lot of responsibility lies in the people communicating and typing those things out and sending it to the masses, as indeed a lot of responsibility lies in with the media to ensure that the reporting is balanced and it's real, and without getting trapped in this whole business of fake news. I know that one company in particular did a little study and wanted to find out which of the media stations are being watched most. And I'm happy to tell you all that News First, I'm happy to tell you all that News First came out way ahead of the competition. I don't want to crow about it, and but you know, I don't want to put the collars up and all that business. But I'm just letting you know that that's what the public out there have told these people, and News First has come out on top. So, you know, to everybody at News First, well done. But that responsibility is there. So isn't that responsibility must also be taken on board by the politicians here, who obviously have a requirement to let the people have their constitutional right. But that's on the one hand, the constitutional right. But on this hand is the practicality of doing that. And like you say, the best way forward is to have a planned release. Do you think that in this planned release that people will appreciate having an elections in between all this? What do you think as citizen Sri Lanka?
Well, I don't think you can plan anything of that nature at the present time. So all that they can say is that these are tentative plans for the future. It all depends on how things progress. We cannot be complacent, and as you quite rightly said earlier, we cannot let what we have gained so far just be thrown into the dustbin by a couple of very unwise moves. So It all depends on how things go, and it will depend a lot on the very expert views of the medical experts who are in the thick of this, the tri-forces, and the economists also as well, that all these people, what they think have to be taken into account. Some of the best brains in our country are at work at the present time. I know for sure that from the medical point of view, some of the absolutely best brains. We don't have to look outside the country. They are at work day in, day out, sometimes burning the midnight oil, and they are at it, and they are doing a lot of work, even at great risk to themselves and their families.
Indeed, and that is acknowledged. And there is, of course, a small number of people who are not turning up to work or making themselves available for whatever reason. But that's another story for another segment. But isn't that sort of professionalism and burning the midnight oil and going not just the one extra mile and all that, that is also reflective and true of the risk takers, the opportunity makers, also better known as entrepreneurs and industrialists of this world, of our country, who have such an important role to play, because individually and severally and collectively, they employ thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who are dependent on their business acumen, on their vision, and on their experience and their expertise. So, is it not, it's a collective effort.
Oh, very definitely, yes.
So we have the medical people on the one side, and then we have the commercial sector on the other side, and you touched on the economists. In between all this, yesterday I had a guest who was a banker, and I posed a question as to the availability of money, real money, right? And whilst talking about the problems being faced by, let's say, the vegetable farmers in, say, Dambulla, there was a suggestion that the distribution wasn't quite working. But Doctor, as again talking to you as citizen of Sri Lanka, you know, you can have the best plans and the best computers and get the best planners to fix the distribution. But there's a problem, isn't there? Because where's the money for the people to go out and buy? We need cash, right? We need cash. It's no good having debit cards, because debit cards link to your cash. You need the money. And there's a suggestion that, you know, one of the things is, you know, we're going to now think of our country, our people. And what do you say? What is your point on that?
Well, I'm not an economist, but I think as I've already indicated that about the economic aspects, I really do agree with you that people, especially the daily wage earners, the people who made a living from day to day.
The 62% of our country who are unskilled workers.
Something will need to be done about them.
Basically, I think the people who print money need to get their machines ready, because the central bank, the treasury, needs to issue the right instructions to press the right buttons, print more money. In an ordinary economy, of course, when things are fine, then if you print money, then of course you are letting yourself into deep trouble, because it has various sort of implications. But when that whole economy is virtually non-existent anymore, or it's in huge, deep trouble, the people need money. 62% of our economy, the workforce, are unskilled people. The output, people coming online to work, is unskilled. And like you said, daily wage. So even if you fix the distribution, there's no money. People need money. I saw that they've sent out 5,000 rupees to Samudri people. That's just not enough. It's just not enough. They need money. And once they get in, of course, then the government can look at things like, don't allow imports of things that we make here. You know, that was something that somehow it's kind of just sort of went by the way. Our manufacturing side, the imports were so liberal that people forgot about people who were making the same things here. So does that sort of strike a chord with you, Doctor?
Very definitely. This is something I have said over and over again. When we have some of the things of comparable quality and value that we produce in this country, like many of the other countries which have developed, especially in Asia, that they will not allow unrestricted imports of those very same articles.
Yes,
I think we got to look after our own industries, our manufacturing center. I mean, what is the need for us to really bring in some of the stuff that we really make, very nice stuff that we make in this country?
Indeed.
Yeah. So I think all that will have to come, and unfortunately it needed a catastrophe of this degree to our getting on to what needed to be done probably quite some time back.
Indeed. And on Newsline Live, we encourage you to send us your questions by SMS, please. 0772 300 305. The number should be coming up on your screen again soon. There you go. Send us your SMSs. It's live here, straight into the studio. And we'll take it on up. Already, the regulars amongst you have been it's full of messages. Thank you, and thank you very much. Now then, many people asking us questions around the need to have money, the money supply, especially to those people who depend, the daily waged people. This has become like a mantra, but you know, if that is the mantra, then that is the mantra. Doctor, you're a doctor, and you must know probably the inside story. Are people really getting their medications through the postal system and so on?
To a certain extent, yes, but not to the extent that we would really like it to be.
Yeah.
That we do not want any of our patients to suffer, as a result of problems about getting their daily medications. So this is something that will need to be looked at. People are trying very hard to get these medications across. They have given, I think over the last couple of days, they have given hotline numbers for them to ring, and to the clinic numbers were given, especially in Colombo. But then it's not only in Colombo, you got to look after the entire country. So these things have to be done in other areas as well. But of course, doing that in Colombo would be just a start, I think in all fairness, I think the medical authorities and the government are doing their very best. But you must realize that in a situation like this, to suddenly get a program going like that, which we have not been geared for so far, is quite a huge task actually.
And to think out of the box is probably the best way forward.
Of course, yes.
Because this is something unexpected.
Totally novel, totally novel.
Indeed. Is that why it was called that?
Yes, it's a new virus.
Right.
It's a new virus, yes.
Right. So we need to think out of the box in more ways than one. The traditional model would be don't print money. Don't print the old money because, but what do you do now? You have to think out of the box. You have to get the economy going again. We've got all these hotel rooms. We've got all these little businesses that are, we've got, where are the little sellers on the street vendors, the street food people? For heaven's sake, they have a life too, and they need to get on to that life. And unfortunately, some people are trying to phone the show, and you can't phone. That's right. So we need to get it going.
Yeah, for us, what the word you're looking for is innovation. We need to be innovative.
Out of the box innovation.
Yeah, very definitely.
And that's where we need to be. And later, and as soon as they get things under control, they need to act decisively. Immediately they need to do that because they need to then reverse certain things, like the restriction of imports. I think everybody will agree is timely and well needed, because it will then get the local manufacturers of various items going again. And if they're doing well, sorry, all these businesses that come through FTAs, for example, they need to be shelved. They need to be re-looked at eventually, but for the moment they need to be shelved.
Yes, and also don't forget the farmers, the people who make our food for our country. Yeah. If we are self-sufficient in food, we can go through almost any catastrophe.
Yes. Innovation, that is the best thing.
Very definitely.
And also, something is better than nothing. And so if the farmers, instead of throwing it all away, or being forced to throw it all away, if they were to get something for it, I'm sure that they'd be all grateful, because that something means money in their hands. It's a bit like everything else, isn't it? The budget airline industry, for example, they go on this notion that bums on seats are better than empty seats. So they sell the unsold seats at any price, because it's revenue that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So in everything.
The corollary are our farmers. They are prepared to sell it for any amount of money.
Exactly.
But
that's it. So the other people need money. Yeah. They need money in their hands to be able to buy that.
Definitely.
So it is innovation, isn't it, Doctor? But it's also common sense.
Yes, yes. Those two need to be combined to get the desired result.
Yes, I think all our legislators and so on, they need to get that common sense bit out and into play, because if they don't, we're going to be this thing is going to be in deep trouble. We have to just look at it to understand the problem. Hotels are actually, this is not like anything we've had before. When it happened at Easter, yes, the hotels were all down, and everybody was frightened, which is a global problem. And then people started coming again. So they were just raising their head when this has happened. And now, of course, it's like Ghost City. It's all shut down. I'm very sad. And what do these people say? They're all stuck without money.
Well, we will have to rise from the ashes. It's basically, everything has basically been sort of burnt down so far.
Indeed.
But we will have to, we are a resilient race, actually, as you have seen in the past, that we have come out of all kinds of catastrophes.
You've been following the events, obviously. What do you think? Is it good? I saw something from the Saturday outlets, and I was quite. It struck me as distasteful. There was some packet of something or other being sent out, but it had the logo of a political party on there. The legal part of it is that they'll say it's just a flower. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, right. But we all know. Don't you think the politicians and so on must be left out of the loop when it comes to distribution? Because honestly, the people don't care. They only care about having access to food and the essential items right now. They don't want to be troubled with politicians and so on jostling for coverage. Certainly the networks, certainly this network is not in this game to provide political mileage in times of adversity.
Well, I'm a medical person. I really don't want to. I'm a totally apolitical person as well.
But do you find in your work as with a person of from a medical background, do you find that people are, what are they talking about as citizens of Sri Lanka? When you get on the phone, you read the papers, you look at the net, you follow information. What is your what do you come to? What sort of viewpoint have you come to? What are people talking about?
Well, people at the moment are terribly worried about the disease itself.
Indeed.
And when you inquire sort of very gently about how they are getting on as far as money, as you say, and other things are concerned, traveling, various things, of course, then they come out with their difficulties.
Indeed.
They are having a tough time. Everybody is having a tough time, actually.
Everybody is having a tough time.
Very definitely.
I thought it might be an inspirational time to play a song, the Rise Up Sri Lanka. Control room, have you got the Negatimu song? If you can play it, this is the time to play it, because it's wonderful. Wonderful song there. Whilst they're doing that, let me take a few more questions from you, Doctor. In case of if schools are started, how to keep the children with the proper distance if there are 50 to 60 children in government schools, for example?
It's not going to be easy, but having worked with children practically most of my professional life, they will do as they are told. They will do as they are told. So it will mean that how you organize that.
So you can't, but they need to be able to keep the distance.
It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy.
Right.
Because in an exit program, I think everything will have to be taken very, very gradually. And you will probably have to start with the areas, provinces, districts which are at least risk.
And let's thank you, control room. We've got the this song. You know, this it's a foreigner who lives who either lives here or is stuck here. I don't know, because it's just going viral. But it certainly struck a chord. Let's listen to that.
Never mind. Rise Up Sri Lanka.
Anduru vala pata atarini nai nagatini Sri Lanka. Biusakasanka badita atarin nagatimo Sri Lanka. Pitamui diriya maeka vane menyekatimo Sri Lanka. Et idivina nagavo kaya hamue nagatimo Sri Lanka. Nagatimo Sri Lanka.
Dr. Whilst that was all going on there, and our dear foreign guest, for whether he lives here or whether he's stuck here, I don't know, but nevertheless he is our very valuable guest. He's our friend. In a way, he's our brother and fellow citizen. Whilst that was going on, somebody sent a question. Very interesting topic that you've touched. Many people are still waiting the 5,000 rupees gift. Where is the breakdown? Where is the distribution of food items? Should be handed over to an official who cares for all Sri Lankans in Sri Lanka. Please help out. Thank you and God bless. You can see the level of frustration. That's, I think, what people are talking about right now.
Yes, the program that has been started, I think only over the last week or so, I think it will have to be extended and extended right across the country to the people who really need it. So it's probably early days, initial attempts at doing this, and hopefully they should be able to, obviously it may not be possible to cater to the needs of every single person, but that should be our goal, that to get it across to every person who needs it.
Is the 14-day quarantine period good enough? Should we have 21 days? Should we have more, less?
I think 14 days at the moment is good enough. But if it starts to escalate, then you may need to increase it, but not at the present time. I think 14 days should be more than enough, because what we have found in these quarantine places is where there have not been real major outliers beyond the period of 14 days. So at the moment 14 days is okay.
Happy with that? Is that what your colleagues and your fraternity, is that what they're talking about?
At the moment, yes.
Good.
They're happy with the 14, but then having said that, I said that this is a process where it's in a kind of evolution at the moment. So we may need to change it later on. So if the need arises, yes, but I don't see that
to
at
jump
the moment.
out of the box.
Yes, but not at the moment.
Dr. BJC Perera, thank you very much for being on Newsline Live. Did you know those initials of yours, BJC? Did they have any? Did they say something in St. Peter's when you were?
Now that you asked, yes, they did. I used to be kind of bullied as butter, jam, and cheese. And funnily enough, even now when I want somebody to remember my initials, I go back to my school days and say, if you have forgotten, if you ever forget, just remember it as butter, jam, and cheese. And let me just mention that it was a pleasure and a privilege to be in your program.
Well, the pleasure is entirely ours, and because it is, the pleasure actually is in the knowledge that this network is the people's network, and we ask the questions and do everything that is reflective of the people's wishes. This is your program, and it's been a pleasure to be able to take your questions and to have your kind attention. Dr. Perera, thank you very much. And I'm going to let you end with that very special, I'm going to call him a citizen of Sri Lanka, because he's doing, everybody including the chief immigration officer, must know that he must be worthy of being called citizen Sri Lanka. Thank you for watching. Take care. God bless. And I'll leave you with Mr. Unknown singing Rise Up Sri Lanka.
And let me just add, the medical community is behind everything.
Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka. Hitamu idiriya maeka vane menyekatimo Sri Lanka. Et idivina nakavo kaya hamue nagatimo Sri Lanka. Nagatimo Sri Lanka.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukut Ali.